All right, Josh, I'm so excited. We're getting ready to start our fall semester small groups, and we've just wrapped up our training the last couple weeks, and Josh Eisenberg is our team leader, the point guy for all small groups here at Restoration, and I know it's a big passion for you. As we get ready to lead, we've just spent the last couple weeks in training. It's moving for me to think about the body really being connected. We live here in North Atlanta. Everybody's busy. We don't have a lot of margin, not much time at all. But if we can do big church and celebrate and worship together, serve together, and then really share life in small groups, man, that's what God's idea for the church is. And what we've talked about is a small group meeting is where a leader facilitates discussion around God's Word that fosters discipleship and community. I love that. It's around God's Word. I'm not teaching, but we're sharing discussion around God's Word, just like in the New Testament. Everybody's got something to add. And we talk about the purpose of small groups is for relationship, to build community, discipleship, to grow in our Christ-likeness, and then leadership, for the church to be made stronger because we identify more leaders, train and empower more people to care for the body. And we've talked in training about the New Testament idea and the number of one another verses in the New Testament. And this list is just amazing. Be at peace with one another. There's 59 one another's in the New Testament. Be at peace with one another. Love one another. Be devoted to one another. Honor one another above yourself. Live in harmony with one another. Stop passing judgment on one another. Accept one another just as Christ accepted you. Greet one another with a holy kiss. When you come together to eat, wait for one another. Have equal concern for each other. Serve one another in love. Let us not become conceited, provoking and envying each other. Carry each other's burden. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. On and on and on. Be compassionate with one another. Just amazing. And you know, if we can get these one another's down, we talk a lot around here about being in community. And community is that religious, cheesy, God bless you, shallow, hey buddy. And we talked about here like the term communitas, where it's not just high five, God bless you, but it's we share life together. And it's what happens on football teams, you know, soccer teams, where you work all season long and you battle together. You know, you go through injuries. It's what guys in the military, foxhole buddies, share. And it's the idea of what God has for the New Testament, that we would be jointly fit, that we would be connected to one another. And not just being connected, but what happens is in the church, Josh, and you know this, we're able to more effectively really care for each other. You know, I'm one pastor. Our church is growing. It's not huge yet, but we're growing. And I can't adequately care for everybody. But what we've talked about is empowering more under shepherds, lay pastors, so that they're trained and empowered and commissioned to help care for, disciple, and lead the body. And I know a year and a half ago, I called you and I said, let's go to Starbucks. We met, your favorite place, where you drink coffee. And, well, you drink coffee everywhere. But you said, and I was like, I need you guys, you and Rachel, come back to Restoration. And one of the key points you said is, we want to be a part of a church where we can be connected to family. We want to be in a church with dynamic small groups. Why'd you say that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us with small groups goes all the way back, 15 years ago when Rachel and I moved out to the Dallas, Texas area. And we literally moved out there on a whim. We didn't have jobs. We didn't have a place to live. We didn't know anybody. And we got in our car and we drove through the night. And we showed up in Texas at 4 or 5 in the morning, slept in the car until Cracker Barrel opened, and then started looking for an apartment. And
how long had you been married at that time?
We'd been married for just over a year at that point.
Wow.
And so when we moved out there, we visited several churches for a while, and I can give you a really wild story about how God led us to the church that we ultimately became members of. But
which was Gateway Church, right?
Which was Gateway Church.
In the early days, right?
Yeah, it had started to get big, but I think it had maybe 3 services at one location, and now it has like 30 services at 20 locations.
Yeah.
I don't know how many they have now. But
huge.
It was
great church, though.
Big, but not mega church at the time. And one of the reasons that we got plugged in there was we found out that there was a small group that met fairly close to our house, and we didn't know anybody out there. And so we got plugged in to that group, and we just figured everybody knew each other in the group, but come to find out, all of us were young, married, not from Dallas, and
Amazing.
We just needed a family. And so even though the church was getting bigger, and you can sneak into a service and sneak back out, and you wouldn't, there's a good chance no one would know if you were there. If
anonymous,
you weren't there. Yeah, you could completely just be a number and go throughout your week and not show up until next week, and if you missed it, no one noticed. But with the small group, if you didn't show up, people noticed you. And so we were going to that group for 2 or 3 years, and everyone started getting pregnant for the first time and having their first kids. And I remember we were due the end of January, and we're at early December. And I remember we're supposed to go to dinner on a Saturday night with some friends from our small group. And Rachel's not feeling good. She calls her doctor. Doctor says, you know what, just go to the hospital, get checked out really quick. I'm sure it's fine. She gets admitted in the hospital on Saturday night. She's admitted into the ICU by Sunday, and we're there for a week. The following Tuesday at like 10 in the morning, doctors are in and out. They have all the people there, and they're finally like, you know what, you're having this baby in the next 15 minutes. And so it's 6 weeks early.
First baby, wow.
10:30 in the morning, and I sent one text to the leader of our group, and within a half an hour we had 20 or 30 people that they had left jobs. It was Tuesday, 10:30, 11 in the morning, and they had left their jobs, and they were all at the hospital. Man. And so for me, it was, we didn't know anybody, and we didn't have family, but we had a family. And so, I mean, we went back and visited, Texas a year ago, and 20 or 30 people from all the different life groups that we had been in, because our life group split so many different times because it kept growing. We threw a huge party, kind of like a life group reunion when we came back in town. And so it's still people that we keep in touch with and do life with today, even from afar. So
I've heard a lot of stories. You've shared that with me. It's not the first time, and it touches me every time. My heart is that everybody can experience a small group that touches each other's lives that deeply. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And at Restoration, we've got to do whatever we got to do to help people get connected to the church family, where people can get cared for, where we can spur one another on to growth. And
one of the biggest things is, and this was pre-kids, so we were life group junkies back then. We led a group on Tuesday night, and we went to a different one on Thursday night. And we can't do that now, just from a scheduling standpoint. But it's one of those things where when it's done right, it's not a get. You got to go do it every week. It's you get to go do it, and you want to be with those people. It's not you just check the box off. I'm a good Christian. I went to church on Sunday, and went to life group on Friday.
yeah.
It's, man, I can't wait to go because it's something that you look forward to. And so you schedule other stuff around it.
Yeah, I get it, man. Well, we're kicking off 8 groups this fall. I pray that all 8 of them will welcome new people that God sends to our church into their groups, and that all 8 of those groups will have that kind of intimate, agape love flowing where they truly care for each other. I'm so excited about it. And I appreciate your leadership.